The project's objective is to develop a technology where we take a swarm of wavegliders and deploy them to extend our maritime awareness capability in the Southern Oceans. We are proposing that we will develop a system which utilizes the waveglider as a workhorse. It will drag acoustic payload through the water. This acoustic payload is where the essence of the system lies. It will actively listen to ships in a specific area and that identify which are unique and different and try to estimate its location. The acoustic information will be sent back via satellite to Morocco Institute. It will feed into the new CSIR project and it will be correlated to see if there is any ships in the area using the automatic information system, the AIS. Suspicious behavior would typically be when a ship have turned off the AIS for some specific reason. Our system would therefore be able to identify that there is a ship. The unique fingerprinting of the acoustic will allow us to know that it is which ship it possibly was and that there has possibly been a contact before. And then if that information is compared to the AIS information and there is for some reason unknown ship in the area, the Morocco can institute instruction to the government. The government can then react on that information and decide either to contact the possible ship's authorities that they suspect it is, or institute other measures to apprehend the ship.
Looking at our history of our work with the gliders in CSIR, this began a number of years ago in around 2011 when we procured our first gliders for ocean and climate research within NRE and CSIR. And we provided the first sets of diving gliders. So these are gliders that dive continuously in the ocean to 1 kilometer depth, collecting, measuring observations around climate and oceanographic sciences. And the wavegliders stay on the surface and use wave motions to power them around the ocean surface at around 2 to 3 knots at a time. And this was a very novel aspect of the experiment because now we could collect observations on the surface of the ocean as well as below using the diving gliders in conjunction.
Poaching is a significant risk in the South African marine context. It obviously differs depending on which fishery you're looking at. Some of our kind of offshore stocks like hake are relatively well managed and I think the industry does a relatively good job of policing itself. But I think there are significant risks in some of our inshore stocks like abalone and rock lobster. We see them sitting at about 3% of pristine at the moment, which is really worrying and obviously a massive economic loss to the country. And then the far offshore stocks, things like Patagonian toothfish, obviously down in the Southern Ocean around Marion Island is also a concern, and there has historically been massive poaching issues with those stocks. And we don't really have a handle exactly on to what extent poaching continues down there.
This project addresses the poaching that is occurring in our waters. Annually we're losing over 1 billion rands of fish stock due to poaching.
I think one of the biggest challenges we face in the fishing industry at the moment is monitoring, to be honest. It's an expensive process and both government and industry struggle to put up the resources to do effective monitoring, and yet monitoring should be the basis of all fisheries management. You can't manage what you don't understand or have information about. So I think the opportunity that these gliders present in terms of helping to gather information, whether it's about resource abundance of small pelagics or of potential poaching activity in some of the other stocks, I think could be a fantastic innovation. Cost-wise, it would make a massive difference if we didn't have to deploy a large vessel and we can have these small wave gliders constantly patrolling our oceans. I think they could be fantastic improvements to our fisheries management.
So we expect to deploy just a small number of these gliders with the integrated sensors around South Africa's coastline and understand what kind of data pathways we are going to be experiencing in terms of data volumes and how we are going to process these large amounts of data that are coming in from just first of all 1 or 2 platforms that can then later be put together with fleets or swarms of these gliders that would happen in the following years. And we also would expect within the second year to integrate the system with CSIR. Year 2 will also be about getting the right kind of training for the pilots. There will be new pilots coming on board within this project, and they need to have the right kind of pilot training to deal with the conditions around South Africa's coastline. Another aspect is then reducing actually the manpower required for piloting, and so this would be in a sense to try and automate the system. And we have already begun talks with the manufacturer in the US, Liquid Robotics, on how we can best automate these systems, especially when you're thinking of deploying numerous amounts of these gliders, like glider swarms. You're going to require some form of automated piloting system because you just cannot have enough manpower to look after all those gliders in a fully integrated project. In year 3, all the wavegliders and marine domain awareness integrated sensors on the wavegliders will be deployed at Marion Island.
The waveglider is an incredible platform. It's revolutionary actually to say about it. It allows us to put sensors on the sea right around the year in any different scenarios. We can attach to it numerous amount of sensors itself to monitor so many aspects of the ocean, not just fish biomass, not just defense application, but the scientific applications of that platform is it's endless.
So there's a significant amount of area which we will need to monitor. Ultimately, that still only brings us to about 5% our exclusive economic zone that will actually be protected, and our target is actually 10%, which we've committed to. So I think it is an area that we should be looking at for growth in the future still.
I'm excited. I think there's a lot of potential for doing some really nice work.
These gliders have significantly strengthened CSIR's ocean climate research capabilities because they've provided information around the ocean on new time and space scales that we've never observed before. These gliders are observing the ocean consistently compared to a ship which provides just a small snapshot observation only a few times a year.
And this glider really is going to give us the opportunity to collect a lot more data than we currently are. We can do so much experimental work. We can assess biases in survey estimates. We can get out there more often and know what's going on between surveys. It might free up the research vessel to do other more important things that currently aren't being done there. All in all, having one or even more gliders will definitely contribute to our understanding of how the system works.